Welcome to episode 102 with me, Alasdair.
And me, Jane Bond.
And we're going to go for a new special, Jane, aren't we, today?
Yeah, well, we've done so much in the last 100 and 101, and then we had the students before then. So we haven't really done a lot of news, and there's quite a lot of interesting stuff out there. But I do, I did get new listeners the other week. One of the new listeners said to me, he says, that was really interesting. I think it was the 100th episode he was talking about. He said, that was really interesting. He said, I didn't really know too much about the waste industry and all of that sort of stuff. But he said, I was waiting to find out from Alasdair what a twin tub was, and he never actually came back with what it was. So I'm like, right, okay, well, I think it's kind of like where you have two twin bits and you wash in one and you rinse in the other. Is that right?
I've got a confession here, Jane. When I was brought up, my mum did all the washing by hand, so we never actually had a twin tub. I just heard the name. I believe what you did was you washed in one and then you rinsed and spun dry another one. And it was literally, as you say, it was you put it, instead of being loaded a door on the side that was all in the top, you opened the lid and it was so I think it was. So if anybody's got a better description, so you obviously never had a twin tub either then, or you can't remember.
I was so young those days, you know. We probably did, but I was too busy playing out and and going on the swings to worry about what my mum was doing in the washing. That sounds awful, but
So there we go. Hopefully that's explained. If we've not explained well enough, I'm sure our listener can chip in and provide us an explanation.
Yeah.
So before we get on to the news, couple of big things happening with Albion and My Bins Limited. We wanted to share with listeners. So two things for Albion, or one thing for Albion, one thing for My Bins. So we have, some of the listeners might know, we have been delivering the WAMATAB COTC qualifications for many, many years, since 2002. And we've done a whole big revamp of it, and we now have Albion Academy Smarter Pathway to CIWM WAMATAB COTC. So that is officially launching on the 30th of March. So if you are interested, give us a Google. If you just Google Smarter Pathway to COTC, you'll find us. If you do want to get involved, then you need to move really, really quickly, because by the time this episode goes out, it'll be nearing the deadline for getting on to this first cohort. And we are intended to do the cohorts every 3 months, so there'll be another cohort starting in July. So that's an exciting bit from Albion. The next exciting bit for My Bins Limited, the new national UK-wide app where any local authority can tap into My Bins app for the general public. It's just gone live in South Ayrshire Council. It's soon to go live in Dundee Council, and it's soon to go in Western Isles Council, and we have other councils we're talking to that we're going to start getting live in as well. So if you are in the council and you are interested in hearing from us, just drop us a note and we'll get in a Teams and explain what it does.
Yeah, particularly if you're in East Renfrewshire Council, that'd be quite good, because I just still have to keep looking outside the door and hope my neighbours have put the right bins out.
If you talk nicely to us, Jane, we can do a demo. We can do the good thing about the new app is we can do demo versions really, really quickly. So basically we can go into the council, but we've got to do them one at a time, which is not ideal. So ideally we want to do it for the whole council area, not just for individual postcodes for members of staff.
House.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fair enough. Yeah,
but we can do that. We can do that. And that's what we have been doing for councils. If they are interested, we've been setting up demo versions really quickly for them, just to get an idea of what's involved. Anyway, enough Albion and My Bin news. What have we got then? We're going to do all news today. So we've got lots and lots of news we've been gathering up. So hopefully relevant things. So what have we got first, Jane?
Well, the first one I've got here is to do with the government is urging councils to seize and crush vehicles belonging to people caught fly tipping, because we've gone on about fly tipping before and what a really big issue it is. And so this is the next sort of way of tackling it, is trying to actually get hold of the people who are doing it and seize their vehicles and crush them. So licensed holders, they can also be disqualified from driving if they build up to 12 or more penalty points within a period of 3 years. So there's also, they were looking at government figures from 2024 to 2025. This is in England. Have dealt with 1.26 million fly tipping incidents. And then there's 62% involved household waste. So, it's like that man with a van coming along and saying, oh yeah, no worries, I'll take your waste away for you, 20 quid, no worries, and no questions asked. And then it ends up round the corner in a car park somewhere. I think that's really, really important, because we were looking at the cost, how much it costs, fly tip waste costs. I think there was a report, and this was only 2018, 2019, and I think it was about 325 million for England, the cost of fly tipping, which is just, that's just horrendous. What a waste of money for all these councils spending all that money on fly tipping. There could be so much more people could be doing with that money rather than picking up other people's rubbish.
You wonder if they've been preparing this for a while, or whether this is a reaction to all the waste crime stuff, because it does seem to have come out really, really quickly, as if it was already going to come. A couple of things I was thinking about was, the news item is very clear. It's Scotland, England and Wales. The guidance has come out from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. So that's actually come out. That's the guidance for vehicle seizure powers for the local authority. So that's all good. I was driving about the weekend there, and the state of our road verges in Scotland is just appalling. It's just an absolute disgrace. And there's two bits to this. There's the public not littering is one really obvious one. Again, one of the cafes, the Good Food Cafe at Tyndrum I was in at the weekend, they organise a regular litter pick, and they put up the post pictures today, and it's just bags and bags of rubbish from the same bit they've just cleaned a month ago, and it's just like, what are we doing? But there's also the other part, that local authorities and any of the contractors like Behaviour Scotland, all the rest, have a legal obligation to clear the litter at the side of the road. And I think in some cases they're not doing it. So there needs to be a sort of twin track approach to it. But certainly in the fact that they're looking at seizing vehicles for fly tipping, whether they'll go as far as putting penalty points on for dropping litter out of a vehicle is maybe a step too far, but at least it's definitely a step in the right direction to try and, because councils can quite easily set up covert cameras and fly tipping hotspots, get the vehicle registration, and get the vehicle seized, and that should make people think twice, I would think.
Yeah, I think there was somebody was telling me about one council had taken away the bins from the lay-bys, and there was so much rubbish and waste left there that they ended up having to put the bins back again. And you're like, really?
Well, there's a whole thing in Scotland at one point about putting bins in lay-bys. One of the, I think, government ministers, I'm sure some of our older listeners like John Crawford and John Nibblog would actually tell us for the reasons for it. But we went around putting litter bins in every lay-by, and then we realised that's people just fly tipped in all the lay-bys, and then it was causing a bigger problem, so they all got removed again. Yeah, we seem to go around in circles with things. But anyway, there was one I picked up, and then I got a bit of flack for it on LinkedIn. So a poor woman, there's a newspaper report about a poor woman who got a fine of £11,500 for putting batteries in her waste. So I think, reading between the lines, she used a private waste company, Island Waste, I think she was moving house or something. She was doing a bit of a house clearance. On the online form she used, they made it really clear that they couldn't accept batteries, and they said there would be a £500 fine for every battery found. And she discarded her waste, and there was toys and things, and there was 23 AA batteries, so they did 23 times 500 and fined her £11,500. And I posted that up, said, like, in terms of maybe a bit harsh, maybe a bit unfair, they did actually reduce their fine to £1,000. But when I posted that up, everybody was saying, well, the waste company was being a bit unfair. And I'm like, well, no, the waste company's made it really clear what they can and can't accept. They've stated the penalty. What else are they meant to do to get the public to do what they need to do? I think maybe it was the way I posted it. I basically posted and said, maybe that's what local authorities need to do to make sure the public actually start putting the waste in the right place, which maybe was what caused the people to take offence.
Yeah, I think the thing is, you could kind of You could kind of sort of understand possibly one or two, but I mean, this is 23. I mean, it's not like a small amount.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I don't know what's happened to the story. I've never followed it through, but they did reduce the fine to £1,000. But even for a householder, I thought, do a house clearance maybe for a few £100. Getting £1,000 bill is still quite hefty.
Yes, it's probably a bit hefty. So the next one we're looking at is to do with these canisters, right? Laughing gas canisters. And it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, they have been banned, the nitrous oxide metal canisters. I mean, they've been banned for illegal or, recreational use. And they're supposed to be available for, I think they're for catering, but apparently they're finding all sorts of these laughing gas canisters at waste centres hundreds of times a week. These people at the firms are saying, and the trouble is, you put a gas canister into, energy from waste, or you run over it and it explodes, because they're high pressure. So they're seeing quite a lot of explosions, problems with trying to sort out how to fix them and all of this sort of stuff. So that's they're struggling a little bit, and the fact that people shouldn't be putting these canisters in. So it's as bad as, it's like vapes, or the batteries we've just talked about. Why on earth do you think it's a good idea to put nitrous oxide canisters inside your bin when they're likely to explode? I don't know.
Yeah. So it's my understanding is they've been banned because they're a Class C drug under Misuse Drug Acts. But you can still, the catering industry can still buy them. And my understanding is you can actually buy them for less money than you need to pay to dispose of them safely, which to me is just perverse. How can we let somebody sell a product onto the market that doesn't reflect the cost of the actual safe disposal? And it seems like one of these ones we just need to take that a step further and say, if you're selling this product, you need to make sure you're charging the right price to make sure that's going, just have some sort of deposit return on it to actually make sure it goes to the right place. But yeah, it seems a nonsense. But that leads us on to our favourite subject, Jane, vapes. And our fire in Glasgow, which took down quite an iconic building. So I remember a long, long time ago, 1986, when I moved to Glasgow, the days before phones and Google Maps, and I used to take myself off for a wander around Glasgow to get to know the city. And I remember vividly walking, and Glasgow's quite an easy city because it's generally just squares. And I managed to get myself a little bit lost. And fortunately, above that building that was burned down the other day, there used to be an Iron Brew advert. And somehow I chanced upon the stream seat and saw the Iron Brew advert and managed to reorientate myself. So, But that fire, my daughter messaged me about the fire, sent me a wee picture. The place was just smoking a little bit. And that was maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then by 7, 8 o'clock, it was a raging inferno that took the whole building down. And turns out it was a vape shop that started in. The owner of the shop had never paid his business rates or anything.
He seems to have disappeared, doesn't he?
Yep, seemed to have vanished, etc. And it shows you, I would certainly not be living above a vape shop in any part of the country.
Not after that, definitely not.
If there's a vape shop below my flat, I would be making very frantic efforts to move out, I would suggest.
I think it's just the way it caught hold. Yeah. And it just kept going, didn't it? And because a lot of the businesses there were, there was a vape shop, obviously that caused the problems, but then there was quite a nail artists, tattoo artists, or hairdressers that all have kind of flammable materials in their in their possessions as well.
I think the other thing is these old tenement buildings, there's wood been in there for hundreds of years. It's tinder dry. Once the floorboards, the joists go up, you're not going to stop it. I've got a friend who's got a business in there. He organises skiing holidays and school trips. His office has been wiped out.
Wow. Yeah.
Fortunately, I believe he's got access to all his IT stuff, but I think if nothing else, it's highlighted the issues with vapes. So it's put vapes back up in that spotlight in terms of, are we doing as much as we should? have they got the right fire? Can you imagine trying to store that amount of vapes as waste? If they were waste, we'd have all sorts of fire regulations to comply with.
Yeah.
So why are there not fire regulations for when they're a product? And then you've got the other side that they're not doing their take back they're meant to do, and so on. So yeah.
Yeah, I think also the other thing that I got from that as well is make sure you've got contents insurance. Because so many of those businesses just lost everything and they don't have any contents insurance.
They did
It's
not.
no, it's a whole life. A lot of them, small businesses, little, like the hairdressers and, or there was quite a number of other businesses there that they were saying they didn't have any contents insurance.
Well, the other thing I find really interesting, this is probably going off the topic of rubbish, but everybody assumes the council's going to sort this out, but the council doesn't own that building.
No,
In
I don't know.
a
Did it
sense,
say who owned the building?
all independent companies. So it's all
okay.
various independent people. So in terms of for the council to do something, take over that site, they need to do compulsory purchase for all these owners. But obviously they're not building there, so what are they purchasing? It's just one of these mad ones that everybody assumes it's the council's fault, and so on. But it's interesting. But it's the railway station. There'll be costs against that because the railway station's still not open and it's not likely to open this week. And I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the chimney that's just hanging there that's not been held up by anything that they're trying to work and demolish to make the site safe.
Well, I was in there on Wednesday and took a photo because they were still damping it down on Wednesday afternoon, which Whew, yes, it's quite upsetting, quite sad that such an iconic building has been destroyed from one little shop selling vapes. So I've got another story here, moving on from vapes, about chip shops. So apparently, criminals are stealing used cooking oil from Scotland's chip shops, mainly because making the oil into biodiesel. I suppose it's going to be even worse now, given the price of diesel and petrol gone up so much just in the last week or so. We talked about waste cooking oil in episode 97, didn't we? And how you make biodiesel and all of this sort of stuff. But they were saying that thefts of used cooking oil cost the UK Treasury £25 million a year in lost duty. So that's quite interesting.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as we've got a price there, the restaurants, etc., get about 30 pence a litre, but that's probably, as you say, with the price of oil going up, that might be even more now. So
yeah, I mean, exactly. So it's obviously worth it to break into McDonald's and steal all their cooking oil.
I think it's when obviously people are leaving it curbside for it collecting, and there's vans going around before the proper collection and collecting it, which is a time on. Well, we talked about that last week or the week before about our episode 100 Years of Waste Management, when the manure got stolen off the streets and it belonged to the council. So if you've not listened to that one, then episode 100.
Amazing what you can learn.
Absolutely. Now we're going on to a topic of people doing the wrong thing. So this is a man in Sicily had trained his dog to illegally dump rubbish. So the city of, I can't pronounce that, Catania, had set up CCTV cameras to stop fly tipping. And this man, so rather than fly tipping, he knew about the cameras. So he sent his dog in with the bag of rubbish to fly tip the rubbish. Can you imagine just going to that effort to fly tip your rubbish? Why don't you just go and use a proper bin system someplace? But there is a little video of this dog dropping his bag of rubbish, which you do have to laugh a little bit, but you also think, what's the point?
Yeah, it's quite. What did the man say? Says the remark from the police said that inventiveness can never become an alibi for incivility. So basically, it may be a good idea, but it's still wrong. And then another one about doing the right thing. So this is to do with balloons, and balloons being let off for memorials and all of this sort of thing. And a balloon seller actually refused to serve customers who intends to release them. So she's been trading for 8 years and was recently asked to provide 200 balloons for a memorial, but she said no, because environmentally it's not environmentally friendly. It doesn't go up to heaven. Apparently what goes up must come down, is what she said, which is true. And there's just, there's not only the environmental issues that they land all in fields and cows eat them, and obviously it's not very good for them, or sheep, or birds, or whatever. As bad as plastic bags. But there's also the helium in them. Can't be very good for the environment with that helium being released as they go up and away.
Well done. So that was Naomi Spittles from Lincoln. So she did the honourable thing and turned it down.
Yeah, so we give her a gold star.
No, absolutely. So on an ongoing theme of businesses, organisations trying to do the right thing, I happened upon a company that's basically setting up a big dome at a landfill site to grow vegetables. So they're going to grow fruit and vegetables in a dome. The site's generate electricity from the methane, and as part of that process, it produces carbon dioxide. So they're using the heat to heat the dome, and they're using the carbon dioxide to promote the plant growth. And the landfill owners, Crapper and Sons, and their community interest company, Sustain Wiltshire, are hoping to erect more than 400 such domes around landfill sites. So
you wonder why. I think this has been done before with greenhouses, hasn't it? Pumping heat and stuff into greenhouses, but this kind of is actually on the site itself. So it
makes a lot of sense. You've got the waste heat from when you generate the electricity from the methane gas, you will produce waste heat. You'll also produce carbon dioxide. If you can utilise that for someone else, then perfect.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Make us more sustainable, grow our produce at home rather than importing from Spain and far away and so on. So all in the back of a landfill site.
Perfect. Grow your spuds on top of a landfill site. So I think this is still a good news story. Well, I think it definitely is.
Yep.
Is the regulations to ban plastic in single-use wet wipes has been laid in Scotland. So the regulations have been laid before the Scottish Parliament. So hopefully that'll get passed relatively soon, and we can get wet wipes containing plastic to be banned. I think we've gone on about this quite often, haven't we, with our fatbergs?
Yep.
And how the problems they cause in the sewage system on the beaches and things when they get washed up on the beaches as well. So let's make sure that we can get a wet wipe banned.
I think that's all the 4 nations doing it now. But was it Wales? Wales was first, I think, with the ban, and then the bans maybe in place there. England's either banned or about to ban, and I think Northern Ireland's done it. So that's everybody. We've got a full sweep. So
it makes it easier for producers as well, doesn't it?
Exactly.
They can just ban take plastic out of everything, no matter where you sell it.
And the next one I found, and I actually found it. I actually found the article and never read it, and then it was only when I started doing my research for this I realised it's. So this is a family-owned soda firm still uses returnable glass bottles. So the people in Scotland will remember Bars Iron Brew bottles, which Ben's deposit they used to get back. But this is actually a company in America. So they reckon 127 billion plastic bottles are purchased each year in America, which is a mental amount.
That's a lot of plastic
bottles. One soft drinks firm in the Midwest is keeping up tradition by using returnable bottles. And they've been doing that. So they've been doing that for forever, basically. And their current deposit is you pay a $20 deposit for a case of 24, so almost a pound a bottle. And some of their bottles are still going strong after 60 years. So it does make you think that, we're pushing the recycling, but really the reuse and trying to get that return chain is the way forward.
Yeah. I think the thing is, what you do need to go to Twig's factory in the city of Shawano to have the same bottles refilled. So it is a bit of a journey, to be fair. But if you're out there anyway, it might be worth going and have a look at Twig's beverages with scones.
I wonder if it's good. I wonder if it's good lemonade.
I don't know. You never know, do you?
If anybody knows, not sure why. It's amazing the random things that pop up in my social feed now because you search for rubbish all the times. And then we've got we're moving on to a couple that are sort of calls to action, if you like, Jane, that we've picked up. So.
Yes, exactly. And the first one is about waste tyres. This was talking about the waste tyre exports. And it says over 75% of UK waste tyre export consignments going completely undocumented. So it's basically a call for action to say, look, come on, we're supposed to be documenting this. And they're wanting to look at a ban on whole tyre exports. Apparently, it seems to be that Australia has a successful shred-only policy. So they don't actually sell any whole tyres or send anything for export. It's all about shredded tyres, so they can actually be, I don't know, I suppose recovered or recycled. So hopefully there may be something that we can actually get sorted with tyres.
Yeah, good. The other one I spotted was the UK Parliament has done a report on legacy landfill sites. So there's actually quite a good report on the policy, regulation, remediation and reducing risks from legacy landfill sites. This is, as we talked about in our episode 100 Years of Waste Management, episode 100 and 101, the UK relied very consistently on landfill for many, many years. There are still many, many landfills around the country that are still producing leachate, still producing landfill gas, still needing managed and are difficult to develop if you need to put a road over it or a building over it and so on. As young Mia, who does all the producing here, knows, when she goes on a training journey with me, I take great delight in showing her fields that are actually the landfill sites and not actually fields. So it's quite interesting. This report's been done. So if anybody is interested in the report, it's quite a comprehensive report in terms of looking at how we manage that legacy. And interestingly enough, I'm working with a group of landfill, various consultants, people that are working on landfill sites, and they've put a bit of a group together to try and say, we need to make sure we don't forget about landfill, because there's a real tendency to say we're recycling and incinerate everything, and landfill still has a place, it still needs managed, it still needs looked after, and we still need to make sure there's resources and the expertise to manage that in the long term. So there seems to be a bit of a push to make sure that it's not lost.
I think there is a theme there as well, because again, I was talking to some of the local authorities saying that their energy from waste facilities were down, that they normally took their waste tours down for maintenance. And the fact that they could still take stuff to landfill was a benefit over that period, because there was nowhere else to take it unless you want to take it down south. So I think landfill is, we were talking about landfill on our episode 101 and how, we do love a landfill site.
Yeah. And then we've discovered, although we love a landfill site, we love innovation as well. So we've got some interesting ones here, Jane.
Yeah, well, this one here is about coffee grounds. And there's been lots of different things for coffee grounds, actually, things you can compost and use them in them, use them for fertilizers and all of this sort of stuff. But this one here is looking at using them to strengthen concrete by up to 30%. And it's basically a way of burning it and making a biochar is what they're talking about. It involves heating the coffee waste to more than 350 degrees, a bit technical, and make sure everybody understands this, 350 degrees Celsius in the absence of oxygen. And then you get a porous carbon-rich material called biochar, which can then be incorporated to cement into a cement matrix. Yeah, I mean, it reduces the waste sent to landfill and gives you strength for your concrete production. The cost of actually making the biochar, I'm not quite sure whether that counteracts the fact that then you put it in concrete, but hey, we can never go wrong with a bit of innovation.
But I think the two biggies that I spotted with this one was it decreases the amount of natural sand you need. So sand is one of them. I believe, I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but sand is one of the things in certain countries that's actually become potentially critically short. So you can't just use sand out the desert because it's too smooth. So you need to use mine sort of sand. So sand is becoming an issue for countries that've got a lot of building work on the go, and it also increased the concrete strength by 30%.
So you would have the right sort of sand.
Yeah, so potentially it reduces the amount of concrete you need.
What got me though, right, it says each year the world generates around 10 billion kilograms of coffee waste. 10 billion kilograms.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I don't even drink coffee.
But I do drink a lot of coffee. Listen,
yeah.
you drink tea, and there was one. I never copied it actually for the news. I meant to, but the amount of plastic. What do you call it? The little bits of plastic, the microplastics.
Mm-hmm.
Seemingly, you get exposed to loads and loads of microplastics, not just from the plastic in the tea bag, but also from the production process, the dust and all the rest. So it's a whole report about how much microplastic you're being exposed to by drinking tea.
No, I don't want to know.
So maybe you need to start drinking coffee, June.
No, I'm not reading anything about plastic in tea bags. It's fine. Although I can imagine how much billions of kilograms of tea bags are produced each year must be pretty horrendous as well. So, if anybody wants to do any research and find out about how much tea is produced, then can do that as well.
And the next one did make me sort of stop and look and read properly actually and go to the document. So this was a bit of research done about you get these large scale cleanups of the garbage bits and all the garbage collects, all the waste plastic collects. So there's companies out there trying to pull out the garbage out the sea sort of thing. And they've done a bit of research, and basically what they're discovering is around that plastic there's lots of living organisms, and then that's been used as a food source by the larger organisms. And there's a bit of research saying, well, if you remove all the plastic, you're taking all the small living organisms away, and then you're depriving the bigger organisms of their food source. So they're basically saying, is it actually the right thing to do? It's not great the plastic's there, but it is actually supporting, some form of life, if you like. And I did sort of had to read it, but there is actually a full study which is published in the Journal of Nature, Ecology and Evolution. So if anybody's interested in going in all the detail about this, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, there is a big report there. But I've always been a bit skeptical about that, pulling this stuff out the sea and the ocean plastics thing. And my view is better to invest in the waste management in the countries and prevent it getting in the sea in the first place than trying to send a boat out and pick it out of the ocean.
I don't know, because I'm thinking about, okay, so there might be all these little organisms that bigger organisms want to eat, but do they have to eat all that rubbish to get the little organisms? So they're ending up to eat a load of plastic, or do they lick off the organisms? I don't know. I think get rid of the plastic.
Yeah, no, the plastic shouldn't be there. I totally agree with that. But I think the argument is the plastic is nature is doing what nature does, and sort of building or using the plastic as a foundation for growing and developing sort of things. So yeah, I'm open minded about it, but as always, we'll share the link so people can make up their own mind if they.
Yeah, just be good to have a poll as to who thinks it's a good idea and who doesn't. Still on the subject of plastic, we have another report that plastic from the 60s in Canada has washed up on an Orkney beach. So it seems like plastic and debris from the 60s and 70s from Canada, and they know that because I was thinking, well, how do they know it's the 1960s and 70s? Is because they've got all of these obsolete brands now, so they can actually date them back. So they're saying that all of a sudden they seem to be coming into Orkney. He says he gathered this guy. He was saying it was strong easterly winds and extraordinary weather, and he's finding all of these bottles from the shore from Canada. That's a long way.
Certainly is. Interesting enough, I was doing a bit of clear out at the weekend, Jane, talking about plastic. And in the box, I had my plastic bag from the London Marathon. So when you do the London Marathon, I don't know if this still happens, but when I did it 9 years ago, 2017, you get a plastic bag to put all your stuff in, and that's the one that gets taken to the finish. So it's a really good, big, chunky bag. You could put, a decent sized plastic bag with sort of rope to close it and stuff. So it wasn't just a wee plastic bag you would get out of this wee flimsy things, proper things. I'd kept it because I used it for various things. So when I was clearing out this box, I was pulling it out and it was literally just disintegrating in my hands. It was just like, it ended up in 1,000 pieces. I had to sweep up and put them in, and all I was left with a rope. So it does. So there's probably loads of microplastics in my office at home because of my London Marathon bag. So
yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? They say they're biodegradable, or I don't know, they're maybe biodegradable, and that may not be compostable. It's two different things, isn't it? The biodegradable,
well, it's degraded.
Or is it photodegradable, as in it degrades down into tiny little pieces.
Well, that's exactly
rather
it degrades
than anything else.
Yeah. So it's degraded into thousands and thousands. But this next one, I love this next one, actually. So this is...
Which is the next one?
Scientists have worked out, so they've done some experiments and they've used PFAs, which are these forever chemicals that we're having a real... So this is the next stage of the POPs that we've talked about a lot. The POPs, the persistent organic pollutants of furniture. So PFAs are the next ones that are going to be an issue for us.
Does PFA stand for?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that, Jane. It's not on my list, so you Google it while I think.
Okay. Polyfluoroaromatic
something. Some of that. But basically, they need to be destroyed in the same way as the POPs. But what they've discovered is they can use this. They can use the PFAs to extract lithium. So they use spent PFAs to extract lithium from high salinity brine. So basically, they're using a waste stream to then you get hold of the lithium, and they've actually extracted the lithium from this process, and then they put that lithium into a real battery, a lithium-ion battery, and the battery has worked perfectly.
Perfect. So, okay, we were partly right with our peat. It's perfluoroalkali and polyfluoroalkali substances. So it's the fluoride, I suppose, which is the fluoride, the fluoro bit, which is extracting lithium from the brine. They're environmental villains, it says in this article here.
You do have to love chemistry, don't you?
Yeah.
These clever people using chemistry. I was never... Chemistry was never my strongest point. Hopefully there's hope yet, hopefully. And I think that was all our news, I think, Jane. That was plenty of news. As we said at the start, it had been building up ever so slightly, so glad we've got that off our chest.
Yeah, there's plenty of news there, interesting little snippets of stuff. So what else have we got? Have you got a rant, Alasdair? We haven't had a rant for a while.
Yeah, of course I've got a rant.
Good. You've been building up a rant for the last 4 episodes.
Build up, absolutely. So my last rant, well, there's probably... I did put a bit of a post up on LinkedIn about this one. So what had triggered me was there was a BBC article which was titled "Food Bins and Ecofix are just too icky for families." And I was like, for goodness sake, we've got really good, valid reasons for collecting food waste, recovering the energy, putting it through an ED plant, recovering the energy, putting that fertiliser onto the land. There's cost savings there. There's cost savings for the families. There's cost savings for the government. There's all the environmental improvements. And all we can talk about is whether it's too icky or not. And I'm like, having a food waste bin that sits under your sink or wherever you put it, that's taken away weekly, is far less icky than putting food waste into a residual bin that might be sitting there for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just, my rant is we need to get much better at putting that case across. And councils, particularly down south, where they're actually rolling out these food waste collections, need to start getting better at putting the positives out about these, and interesting enough, South Ayrshire's done a lot of work, South Ayrshire Council's done a lot of work about food waste, and they did a bit of an update recently, and they never mentioned anything about costs. They never mentioned about anything, the cost saving to the public or cost saving to thing. Maybe that's to come later on in their plan, but at the moment it's all very much focused on the environmental benefit. And I think you've got to give people both things.
Yeah. It's still quite amazing when I talk at some of these courses that I do. People don't use the food waste bins.
They don't use it?
No.
They don't use it?
No. And I'm saying, if there's anything you can take away from this, use your food waste bins.
But it's because we don't tell the public. We don't mandate the public. We don't say to the public, use the system as it's designed. We seem to have forgotten that bit. We seem to think they'll get, the down south in particular, they've got all these rollouts of food waste collection. Have we actually thought that we actually need to say to the public, guys, you need to start using this stuff?
It's supposed to be rolled out, but I mean, I know my mum still hasn't got her food waste bin.
Well, there was stuff there again recently. There was posts about, how many councils weren't going to have the food waste out in time. But if you actually think about it, it was madness to set every council in England with the same deadline.
Yeah, can you imagine all those bins?
All you've done is they're all trying to get bins at the same time. They're all trying to get drivers at the same time. They're all trying to get vehicles at the same time. What's that done to the price of them? It's just, So what they should have done was a third of the country does it, 1 year, third the next year, third the next year. The prices would have been better and it would have got rolled out in time.
God, they just never ask us, do they, Alasdair? I mean, if they talk to us about it, we'd sort it.
Basic, they seem to think,
but yeah,
they seem to think that there's companies sitting waiting to create, millions of bins. They're sitting twiddling their thumbs, waiting to roll off bins. They're going to have a supply program, and they're going to have to, scale up or down to do it. So frustrating, but. That was about 3 rants in one there, I think, Jane.
Yeah, probably was. But hey, we'll let you off with that one.
So I think that's us. We've got a few guests lined up for episode 103, 104. So we've got a couple of interesting guests coming up. So.
And we're not telling you who they are because you've got to listen.
We can't give too much away, to be
Absolutely not. It's like there's a cliffhanger. There is always a cliffhanger, so that, you have to come back to the next one.
So thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you again next Thursday at 4 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share with friends, and send us your feedback at hello@rubbishtalk.co.